Here are some thoughts on The Winter Soldier, a book that provided many thoughts in me over the past 2 nights. James Barnes, or Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, was a war hero up until the end of the Second World War. He was presumed killed, but in fact the Soviets had taken him, brainwashed him, and turned him into one of their own. In the process, he meets Natasha Romanoff, a Russian, a Soviet. Falls in love with her. She falls in love with him. And they're both assassins for their country. They have theirs, we have ours. But over time, though, Natasha comes around and basically betrays her country to join the Americans. Barnes' memories are restored, and he becomes aware of all the things he's done. And many of them are quite horrific. So in The Winter Soldier, you have a man trying to find redemption for his past. And Natasha, the woman he loves, is going to assist him. And this book is really a story about both of them. But when I read it, I was quite moved by the story, particularly by the artwork, which is very cinematic. Before I get there, it made me think of certainly books that I've read in the past, stories, and of course my own experience. And there's a line, the Song of Songs from the Bible. And there's one sentence which has been with me for many, many years, and that is, I sleep, but my heart is awake. The Song of Songs is desire fulfilled. It's almost like as if the present was eternally there. And you have lovers calling for each other, hoping to hear the voice of the other. Now note that it is preceded, though, by the book of Ecclesiastes, which warns that everything we do here is subject to end, and that all is vanity. And that everything we do will be held to account by God. Now, The Winter Soldier is about a man trying to find redemption for his past sins. And you have him searching for agents that he trained, who have been released, and he is set out to stop them. Now, those agents still think the Cold War is ongoing. And in the early storylines, he's able to stop 2 of them. But there is one, Leo Nabokov, that will be his Achilles heel. Nabokov believes that Barnes has betrayed his country. Again, noting he believes him to be a Soviet, a Russian, as has Natasha. So he's going to seek vengeance upon them both. And he's going to try to hurt them. Now, the artwork by Butch Guice and Michael Lark, although it's mostly by Guice, is remarkable, notably, for scenes like this. What you see here is, early on in the story, the Black Widow, Natasha, has been taken by the agent Nabokov. Barnes assumes the worst. And what you see here is him releasing his aggression but remembering memories of them together. When they were in Paris. When they were in love. And then you cut to this scene here of a man in despair and unable to do anything because he can't find her. The artwork by Guice and the colors by Jordi Belair add to the mood of the story, which is very passionate, desperate, and at times cathartic. And if I could share just one more issue with you. I believe with issue 14. Is again the cinematic quality of this book. With Barnes pursuing Natasha. Natasha has now gone back to her old ways. Her memories are gone, including the love that she had for him. They've been erased. She's under the control of Nabokov, who again wants to hurt them both. And there are some things that are worse than a physical death. And Barnes remembers in the tempest a brief moment of calm, but it's only very brief, because all hell breaks loose. It's the Winter Soldier, ages 1 through 14. And then Fear, Captain America. But the book made me think of other stories where you have memory and desire. Wuthering Heights, The Great Gatsby, Tarkovsky's Solaris, and the book that inspired by Stanislaus Lem. Adolfo Cáceres, The Invention of Morel. The Good Soldier, Ford Madox Ford. The End of the Affair, Graham Greene. The Age of Innocence, Edith Wharton. Thomas Hardy's Judy Obscure, which was made into a remarkable film starring Kate Winslet with a very painful ending. Blood Wedding or Bodas de Sangre by Federico García Lorca. En los labios del agua by Alberto Sanchez, On the Lips of the Water. Dr. Zhivago by Boris Pasternak. And the TV series Balika's Angel, which may have been inspired by Northern Exposure, but instead of a doctor, you have a priest, and instead you have a pilot, you have a tavern keeper. And Also, unlike Northern Exposure, what happens here is quite serious and memorable, and well, I'll let you watch the series. Oh, Italo Calvino's Invisible Cities. And T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland, which is not known as a love poem, but what he's able to do is just like you have lines in these beautiful books, beautiful lines in the King James version of the Bible. You have the same in The Wasteland, where you have April is the cruelest month because it mixes memory and desire, which take a whole new note in the story of Natasha and James, especially but what happens to them at the end of the story. And if you let me finish this with some lines from Ecclesiastes and the Divine Comedy. Now note, The Winter Soldier is about a man trying to find redemption for his past sins. In Ecclesiastes you have, if a man live many years and rejoice in them, let him remember the days of darkness, where they shall be many, and that all that comes is vanity. Now rejoice, young man, in your youth, and let your heart cheer the days of your youth, and walk in the ways of your heart and in the sight of your eyes, but know that for all these things God will bring you to judgment. And note that the book is followed by the Song of Songs, where one sleeps, but the heart is awake. And even in the bowels of hell, as in the Divine Comedy, Canto 5, the world the lustful, where you are just a shadow of yourself, literally. You are there with the person you love the most. You can see her, but you can't touch her. Your hand goes right through her. Your desire for her is still strong. You can't smell her. And if those of you that know, there's nothing better than a woman, how she smells in the morning beside you. And she cannot touch you. Her hand goes through you. And her desire for you is as strong. And you are here for eternity. And in Dante he meets two lovers, Francesca and Paolo, who tell him, there is no greater sorrow than thinking back upon a happy time in misery. And she tells them of how they fell in love. One day, to pass the time away, we read about Lancelot, how love had overcome him. We were alone. We suspected nothing. And time again, that reading led our eyes to meet and made our faces pale. And yet one thing defeated us, when we read how the desired smile of Guinevere was kissed by one who was so true a lover, Lancelot, who never should be parted from me. While all his body trembled, he kissed my mouth. Winter has set upon James Barnes by the conclusion of this story. and his heart is awake in the deepest of sleep.